This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Mem, and today's shiur, the shiur for the 5th day of Chanukah, has been dedicated as an incredible schos, Aliyas Neshama for Penina Bas or of Daiv Ber, B'siyata Dishmaya, the learning of the entire Chabura, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, Torah and Chanukah, Kiner Mitzvah V'Torah or should bring Penina Bas or of Daiv Ber higher and higher in Gan Eden Shalmaila, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, and ultimately be a Milat Yosher on her entire family and in the Gans Klal Yisrael. We pick it up at the bottom of Lamantes Amid Beis. Again, I apologize that we're a little bit late on this year, and I hope to catch up the next day or so. Amar le Rav Achar bar Abaya le Ravina. We're in the middle of discussing the Shita of Rav Yaakov Satamos b'Mekayma Imedes, a fascinating idea that when there's a muad is not plain nezek shalem. It pays chatzi nezek and then chatzi nezek again. The difference being is that in a scenario of a muad, there could be a case that you would pay chatzi nezek. That is how the Gemara just explained according to Rav Yaakov. We're going to learn the Braisa. The reason you pay chatzi nezek is why of the cher sheita v'katan. It's because you're paying due to the original chatzi nezek of tzad tamos. So Amar le Rav Acha bar Abaya le Ravina. Bishlam la Abaye, 2 lines from the bottom. It's good according to Abaya, Damar Paligi. According to Abaye, that says Pligi Shapir. According to Abaye, that says there's a machlokes Rav Yudah and Rav Yaakov. Everything makes sense. Alarav Adamar le Pligi at the Mukila b'muad Nukma bitam. But according to Rava, that says there is no machlokes. Again, Abaye explained that according to Rav Yaakov, what we're discussing is that we do not appoint an apotropos in the case of the tam, and therefore the reason why there is a case of chatzi nezik, as we started off explaining, is due to the tzad tamos b'mekaymai oimedes. But according to Rava holds loy pligi. There's no machlokes of Yaakov and Rav Yehuda. That according to Rav Yaakov, we do appoint an apotropos in the case of the tam. So then according to Rava, Ademuki la b'muad nukmi b'tam. Why don't we just say that the price is referring to a case of tam, and that's the reason why there is the chatzi nezek. So we turn over to Daf Mem Amud Aleph. It says the Gemara, either Rav Yehuda explains the Gemara that if we're going according to Rav Yehuda, I apologize, just trying to clear up our page of Daf. Either Rav Yehuda, if we're going according to Rav Yehuda, David le Shmir Pchusa, who said that what type of shmir do you have to do on this animal? Shmir Pchusa, lower level shmira. V'lo David le Shmir Mu'ula. I didn't do shmir l'ula. Either Rav Yaakov, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, David le Shmir Klal. According to Elazar ben Yaakov, you didn't do a shmir at all in the case of a tam. So therefore, either way, it would make sense that there is a case of chatzi nezek. So the Gemara is trying to figure out why would we explain, according to Rava, that the Braisa is referring to that the case is a muad. Say it's going to the case of a tam, and it is much easier. Says the Gemara, 1 second, and really we're going to get a lot of the dinim cleared up from yesterday. Could be we should have gone to the 2 dots in a moment, but we ran out of time. Says the Gemara, did Tanya, and now we are sourcing the din that Rav Elazar ben Yaakov holds in a case of a tam. You're allowed to watch the animal with a shmira pchusa. Did Tanya, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov oimer, says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, echad tam echad muad sheshamram shmira pchusa pturin. Either one, you're potter as long as you guarded it with some level of guarding, even though it is a shmir b'chusa. So says the Gemara, middle of a kasha, that according to Rava, that according to Rav Yaakov, that we should have explained that the case is one of a tam. So what would the chiddush be? Rav Yaakov dimamidim lanapachapis latam ligvais begufay. And that is how Rav Yaakov would learn the case. That the chiddush would be that you don't pay the dollar value of the damages, but rather that the Bezdin allows there to be an apotropis in order to collect megufay. So ask the Gemara why, according to Rava, do we not explain that the Brisa is talking about a case of a tam? This was the kasha that Ravina posed. Amar le, so Rav Achabar Yaakov responds to Ravina, Hachi Kamar. This is Pshat. This is what Rava was explaining. Hachi Kamar. Chada, number one, this bay Tarti Taimi. Number one, Rav Yaakov is saying something that has two reasons. What does this mean? Let's look at Rashi. Rashi is directly across, and Rashi says, excuse me, that's the whole answer. One that has two reasons. Says Rashi, what does that mean? Ha'il v'sir leila Rava. D'loi pligi Rav Yaakov v'Rav Yehuda bekulu. Sfir le'hachi. Ulahachi ukma Rava b'muad u'b'shmir b'chusa. That's why Rava said that we're talking about a muad and shmir b'chusa. Titishma mina. That we can learn from there. T'is lei l'Rav Yaakov ki Rav Yehuda. T'sagi lei litzad muadais b'shmir b'chusa. Ulitzad tamos b'mekayma ha'medes. Ulididei loi sagi lei b'shmir b'chusa. B'tishma nami d'amidenu b'apachopsin l'tam ligvois megufa. So that's going to be the chiddush. That even in the case of muad, that even in the case of satamos b'mekayma ha'medes, still sagi lei b'shmira pechusa. Says the Gemara, Ravina Amar, says the Gemara, according to Ravina, Rishos Mishane Ikabe Nayu. As we explained yesterday, that when the animal changes Rishuyos, that is the Chiddush. Rishos Mishane Kigoin. What's the case? The case is Kigoin Dahave Muad V'nispakach Cheiresh V'nishtafe V'nishtafe, excuse me, Dahave Muad V'nistapakach Cheiresh V'nishtafe Hashoite V'higdela Koton. So how do we explain? Rav Yidu Savar Have Rav Cheskasai, Rav Yaakov Savar Rishos Mishane. That even though it changes possessions, Rav Yudah says still it remains in its muad status. And Rav Yaakov says no. Says Rav Yaakov Rishos Mishane, that since it's now in a new Rishos, the animal goes from being a muad, it goes back to being a tam. That is the reason why there will only be chatzi nezek. That was really a continuation of yesterday. I apologize, that should have been done probably at the end of the previous year, but we ran out of time. So for now, let's continue. Tanu Rabbanan, we're 10 lines down at the two dots. A new and fresh Bryce, of course, first cousin to our whole discussion. Abatrabsin mishalmin min ho'aliyah, ve'ein mishalmin kaifer. Says the Bryce, an abatrabis. An abatrabis, by now we know what it is. We've had this extensively. Court-appointed shliach, court-appointed messenger, to take over the estates, the affairs of the Yasim, etc. Says the Braisa, pays min aliyah, meaning it pays from the choice property, pays from its own stuff, does not pay kaifer. If it killed a person, the ox killed a person, there is no kaifer. Says the Gemara, what is the reason? Man tana kofir kapara. So who said anything about kofir kapara? So the Gemara is assuming over here that what is the reason that the apatrabis doesn't pay kaifer? Pashtos. It's because what is kaifer? When the animal kills a person, the bailim need a kapara. So the apatrabis is not the bailim. So apatrabis doesn't need a kapara. So says the Gemara Gavaldik. So who is that Tana? Who is this Tana that holds kofra kapara? And that's the reason why the Yisami lav b'nei kabarnenu, and the Yisamim don't need a kapara. Why? Because there is no kofra payment by the apotropis. So Amar Rav Chisda Yishal ben Yavim Braikehi Titan Yavin Nosan Pidyon Nafsha. It says in the pasuk by kofer, and you should pay. The owner of the ox that kills has to pay Pidyon Nafsha, the redemption of his life, literally kofer. Demei Nizik. Says the Tanakama, this is the value of the damages that was done. Rabbi Shmuel ben Yishabrach ben Braikai Daimer. No, it's nothing to do with the damages done. The main mazik. It is the value of the mazik, the owner of the ox. So what is this machlek as Rabbi ben Braikai and the Tana Kama? My love, baka mifligi. The Rabban and Savi Kofra Memainu, that the payment of kaifer when an ox kills another person is memaina. So we go by the mamain, the damages that were done. Rabbi Shmuel ben Yishabrach ben Savar, no, kofra kapara. So suggest the Gemara. So our Mishnah, the Brisa we just quoted, is going to go with Rabbi Shmuel ben Yishabrach ben Breika. Says the Gemara, not necessarily. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, no, that is not the machlekes. The kuliyal, everyone could agree. Kafar kaparahu v'achbakamifligi. So what's the machlekes? Rabban and Savar b'demizik shaymin of Reishol benot shabruch ben breika. Savar b'demazik shayminon. It's not that Reishol benot bracha is the one that's holding it's a kafir payment. They're both agreeing, just different ways to evaluate the payment that has to be done. So, nice in words, but what's pshat? According to the Rabbanan, why lemaisa would you evaluate bidinizik, the damaged property? My time of the Rabbanan. Where would the Rabbanan come from? Explains the Gemara. Nemra shita lemata v'nemar shita lemala. Malha b'nizik afkan bidinizik. Says the Gemara, it's going to be based on a gzira shava, that the pasuk, it with regard to kaifer, says im yefer kushas. Nope, that was not right. Im yefer yushas alav, and then the pasuk says kasher yusha anash anish kasher yoshis alav bali isha. Just like the second pasuk is b'dinizik, so to the first pasuk is b'dinizik, and that's why the Rabbanan hold you pay b'dimazik. And so now in the classical Gemara game of ping pong, what does Rabbi Shmuel ben Yishabrach ben Breika? What does he say? Savar? V'nasan pidyon nafshay. He said no. But the Meister Torah says pidyon nafshay. He goes by the mazik. V'rabanon. Ein pidyon nafshay. He said miu ki shaymina pidyon nizik shayminon. Yes, it is a pidyon nafshay, but the way to evaluate that is bidit nizik. Givaldik. So the Gemara wanted to suggest that the Brisa fits only with Rabbi Shmuel ben Yishabrach ben Breika. Says the Gemara, no, it's not true. It could be both shitais. Everyone holds kaifer payment as kapara. Just two ways of evaluating it. Do we go with the fact that Torah is an asa pidyon nafshay, strictly Rabbi Shmuel ben Yishabrach ben Breika, and therefore b'demazik, or do we say no, gzir shava yashis? Bishabeach lei rav. We're about 12 lines for the medium-sized lines. First one line is Mishabeach. Mishabeach lei Rava l'Rav Nachman d'Rav Acha bar Yaakov d'Adam Gadol hu. Amar lei Rav Nachman said to Rav, when he comes to you, if you have the yad, bring him to me. Kias l'gabei Amar lei ba'minei milsa. I want to ask you a shayla. Ba'minei. So Rav Yaakov asked him the following shayla: Shar shal shnei shutfim. And this, of course, the beginning part of the story was just the accolades telling us the background of what happened. But here is the shaila. Ba'imine shar shel shnei shutfim. When I have an ox that has two owners, keitzad mishalmim koifer. How do you pay koifer? And of course, this is coming directly on the heels of the previous Gemara, kofer kapara. How do you evaluate, etc. Do we say mishalim hai koifer v'hai koifer? Do we say that it's to pay each ox's owner the full koifer? Mishalim hai koifer v'hai koifer. Mishal Kaifer Echad. That can't be, because the Torah says there's one kaifer. Hai chatzi kaifer v'hai chatzi kaifer. That also can't be. Kaifer shalim amar achmana v'lo chatzi kaifer. So how do you deal with the fact when we have an ox that belongs to two people and it goes and it kills? What does each owner pay? Does each owner pay full? Why are you paying double? Does each owner pay half? We don't have a precedent for paying chatzi kaifer. Adi Yosef v'kamayin ba. As Rav Nachman was sitting, being ma'ayin into the Shaila Amar Lei, Rav Nachman fires at Rav Nachman Achar Yaakov fires at him another question. Tanan chayvei erchen mimashchen in oisan. In the case of chayvei erchen, someone who's obligated to pay erech, the value of himself, a neder, do we take a mashkin from him? Excuse me. Chayvi erechen mimashchen. We take a mashkin. Chayvi chatois v'ashamois ein mimashchen. Chayvi koifrin mai. When someone is obligated to pay koifer, do we take a mashkin from him or not? What are the study ashayla? Given the kofro kechatos v'asham dami, because you're getting a koifer machmir chamer luyeh v'loy b'ay mashkin. It's more chamer, and therefore there's no mashkin. Or do we say for the fact that it goes to your friend, you pay to the owner of the shar, therefore there's an element of monetary payments involved, and therefore and therefore how do we view it? Do we say that in the man's eyes it is chamer because it's akin to a carbon, and therefore there's no need for a mashkin? Or do we say no, it's like monetary payments, which unfortunately sometimes people do not hold in the highest regard, therefore we have to take a mashkin? Continues the Gemara, and the Gemara says, inami, or else, kivan dahavile dehu loy chata umemayne udazik. He himself didn't sin, it was his money that damaged. Loy chamer milsaliyeh by mashkinei. Or on the flip side, we need to take a mashkin because it's not so serious to him. So responds Rav Nachman Amar Lei, Shafkan, leave me alone. Is Tagar Bikamaisa? I'm still dealing with your first question, and you're asking me another question. And the Gemara really leaves this. The Gemara does not deal with what exactly the answer to the question is. And now we go back to a discussion that we had on the top of the Hamid, which is Rishos Mishane. What happens when the ownership of an animal changes? How does that affect its Satam, its Muad? Does it revert back? Does it remain a move, etc.? Taner Rabbanan, Sha'oloi b'cheskes tam. Someone borrowed an animal while it was a tam v'nimsa muad, and what happened? And lamaisa, ikors, it's found not to be a tam, a calm animal. It's rather a muad. Ba'elam misham chatzi nezik v'shalom shal chatzi nezik. Muad bebeis hashayil. But if it became a muad in the house of the shayil, according multiple times, v'chzir laba'ilim, then the bailim, it reverts back to paying a tam, and the borrower, it's no longer in his possession. He doesn't pay anything at all. End of Brisa. So now let's dive into this Brisa. Amar Mar, the last of the medium-sized lines, 4 lines from the bottom of Mem Amen Aleph. Amar Mar Shalu b'cheskes tam v'nim samuot. If it was borrowed while being a tam, it was found to be a muad. Ask the Gemara, why is this true? I borrowed a tura, a shar, ara, a lie. So why does the shayel have to pay anything at all? The reason that it damaged because owner didn't tell him that this animal is wild. So the shayel should say, Mekach Tayis, I don't want to pay anything. He understood, the borrower was aware that it was a nakhin, that it was aggressive. Therefore, even though it was a tam lahalacha, but he realized that this is an aggressive shar. and therefore he has to be chatzi nezek. Says more 1 second, v'nei malei, but he should be able to tell the owner, she'ili muad, v'nei malei tam she'ili muad lo she'ili. Very good, he saw it was aggressive. But lamaisa, I told you I want a tam and not a muad. Answers the Gemara, misham da amar lei. The reason is because the owner could say to him, Saif itam hu palganiska by shlumi. Even if it was a tam, you'd have to be a chatzi nezek. So ashtenami zel shalim palganiska. It's true you wanted a tam, okay? So you have to go and pay chatzi nezek. What is the problem? Says the Gemara, what do you mean? If it was a tam, we know you pay me gufay. You pay from the body of the animal. And now that it was found to be a nuad, it comes from aliyah. So why doesn't the shayl claim that he thought it was a tam? Because the owner could say, Saif, at lav tura bayish shlume lid lav at lav tura bayish shlume lididi. Would you not have had to pay me for the ox? Meaning it's true that if it was a tam, it would be paid me gufay. But then you, the shayel, would have to pay me back. So what's the problem? V'nei malei, continues the Gemara, but the shayel should be able to say as we turn over to Mem Amid Beis, Itam have, if it would have been a tam, patrina, I would have admitted that there was a maisa, that the animal gored, and what would the halacha have been? If a shayel is maideh, he would have been potter. The borrower would not have had to pay once he was maideh to what happened. Vafe lulaman damer, says the Gemara on top line of Mem and Beis. Palganiska bin moina nami nemale. He could have said that if you hold palganis a good nasa. If you hold it's a kinas, the halacha is, of course, moide be kinas potter. So the borrower could say, I would have admitted him in potter. And even according to Mandamar Palginis Kazman Maina, Nemale, the borrower could say, Itam Havoi. If it would have been a tam, Have Marikna Lelagma. I would have brought it out to the swamp, hidden the animal there, and I would have made sure that there's nothing that could have been done. Why? Because a tam only pays me gufay. So the shayl could have said, I would have made the animal inaccessible, and I wouldn't have had to pay. So why does the shayl have to pay now? He should have a good time against the bailim. So finally, the Gemara goes back and says, we're dealing with konda aktim beidina v'tafsei. Must be that the bezdin grabbed the shar. That has to be the case before the shayl was able to hide the animal. Ask the Gemara 1 second. If that's true, so why is the bailim paying chatzi nezek? Meaning just the shayl should pay. Neimalei. The bailim should tell the shayel, it asua liturai biyada. My axe was grabbed while it's in your hands. Man delay matzina lishtayuye dina bahadei. What happened? Now that the bezdin has my axe, the owner could say, I can't have a taina anymore. So it's interesting, we just turned the tables. Now that bezdin was taifis the axe, the owner should be able to claim that the fact that my axe was grabbed by you, I no longer could say anything. Answers the Gemara, no. Because the shayel could say, what are you talking about? If I would have given you back the ox, they would have taken it from you. So what is your taina? Continues the Gemara, the owner should be able to say, if you would have given it to me, the same taina going in a circle, I would have put it in an agam, I would have hidden the animal. Says the Gemara, because the shayl can say back, saif, you would have to pay me aliyah. Let's not forget, it's really a muad. Till now, we've been handling as if the animal was a tam. Why? Because that's what the borrower thought. But through the eyes of the owner, it's really a muad. So, of course, you would have had to pay me'aliyah. Says the Gemara 1 second. That only works if l'maisa the owner has nechasim. But Hecha delas le nechase ma'ikal meimar. If he has no properties, what difference would it make? He wouldn't be able to pay. The reason is because the shayel, the borrower, could say, "Keichet mishtabidna ledidach, hachanami mishtabidna lahayich." Just like I have to give the ox to you, I have to give it to the one that did damage, meaning me, the shayel. It's true, it's your ox, and I have to return it to you. But I'm also obligated to the other party that this ox damaged. I have the same shiba to both. Why? Medir Rav Nassan, famously like Rav Nassan, 20 lines down. First word of the line is Nasin, Titania Rabbi Nasin Aimer, Minayin Linaishe Bechaveira Iman. How do we know that if one owes another one a money, and he owes the next guy? Minayin Shavitziyim Mizad, you know that you could take from Shimon to Levi, etc. V'naisel Azat, Amalaymar, V'nasan Asher, Asham Loi, Huad, V'nasan Asher, Asham Loi. And that's the end of the story. Famously, Shibuda de Rav Nasan, that if Reuven owns Shimon and Shimon owns Levi, then Levi is allowed to go directly to Reuven. So to over here, the shayel could say, "What do you want from me? I was mishubed to him." And we continue about 13 lines from the wide lines. First one line is Huad bebeis hashayel v'chzir lebaylim baylim mishalmim chatzi nazik v'shayel pater miklom. The next case in the brisa, if this animal became a muad in the hands of the shayel, and he then returns it to the owner, and of course, the owner has to pay chatzi nazik because that's what he originally had, and the shayel is pater miklum. Says the Gemara, Seifa. From the Seifa we see Rishos Mishana, and this is really why we brought down this whole price. So we just got a bit sidetracked with the whole discussion for the last Amid, figuring out how the shayel has to pay. Says the Gemara, from the Seifa we see Rishos Mishana, that when it went from the shayel back to the owner, it's considered that it changes its status from a muad back to being a tam. Reisha Rishos Eina Mishana. But in the first case, it didn't change when it changed statuses. Amar Rav Yochanan Tavra Mishanazu Lo Shanazu. No problem. Classically, two different people learned the brisa. Rabba Amar. Rabba says no, a second teretz. Midereisha Mishos Eina Mishana. Seifa Nami Rishos Eina Mishana. But Rava, how do you say that? In the Seifa, we see clearly that it reverted back to its tam status in the eyes of the owner. V'Seifa, I know time that only pays chatzi nazik mishum damar lei, because the owner could say lav kol keminach tamiadis lei leturoi. He could tell the shayel, you can't make my ox a muad. So it's not that the ox goes from being a muad back to being a tam. No, the owner could say, it's my ox. So it only could change into being a muad in my status. And finally, Rapapa Amar, third teretz, with the Seifa Rishos Mishana, the exact opposite, Reisha Nam Rishos Mishana. But in the Reish Ainutayima, why? Wherever it goes, has the owner's name on it. And therefore, even though now the ox is in the possession of the borrower, it's still considered at some level in the rishos of the owner. Therefore, it remains being a muad. Meaning, normally, if it does change rishuyais, it would change status. But going to a shayel, a borrower, is not considered changing rishuyais. I'm aware that we are a little bit early on the daf. We're going to stop over here. We'll make it up at Siyata Shemaya in the next shiur.